And to close the night, Ian from Sailthru, you're mic'd up.
All right, am I mic'd up? Great. Hi guys, I'm Ian White. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Sailthru. We're a personalization and automation company that's helping the new generation of digital marketers personalize every communication to every customer across email, on-site, and mobile. We were started about 5 years ago by 3 technical co-founders, and we've grown from those 3 to about 140 people based in New York, San Francisco, and London. What I want to talk about today is how we built a scalable infrastructure, both at the mechanical level and at the conceptual level. What do we think of when we think about data-driven? The topic tonight is data-driven infrastructures. Or data collection. Many of us think about the big data set of technologies, the new set of technologies that can gather much more data and store much more data. Perhaps we're thinking about large Hadoop clusters storing terabytes of data in scary blue server rooms. Perhaps we're thinking about the way that we break data down into information, into zeros and ones, and ultimately digital information. Perhaps we think about all those things, and I think about all of those things. But really, at a base level, data is information. It's from the Latin word that means that which is given. Right here, I'm a being that is emanating data. I am speaking to you, and you're hearing the words that I'm saying. You are looking at my slides that I have put up. This is a form of data. You're also judging my body language, my tone of voice, the clothes that I have on. If I was wearing the New England Patriots hoodie that I had on yesterday, that would be a different set of data from this very snazzy jacket that I have on. You would learn something about my interests, and if I say we can have a beer afterwards and talk about any of this, you're learning more about my interests. This is data. And you are all data processing beings who can process that data and take action on it. Perhaps it's to have a beer with me afterwards. So when we think about data at the basic level, it means the facts that are given, the basic terms of reality that we take and process in our system and form some sort of model. A model that maps reality. And while the map is not the territory, the map is never the territory, when we design a system, we build a model that helps us make some sense of data. And that's what we've done at Sailthru. We had a basic set of assumptions that constrained our system that we believe could build a basic model of reality as it relates to marketers communicating with end users in a personalized way. We had a hypothesis, a theory, that personalization would drive results for our customers and for the end users. That if our end users were communicated to in a personalized way, and each individual was formed a body of data, a body of interests, a body of preferences, a body of behavioral data, that could ultimately drive customer lifetime value and drive results. So here's a little map of the Sailthru infrastructure. Here's the mechanized data collection engine. We receive data from the internet. It hits our load balancers. We have a number of API web servers that are processing that data in real time. So the API infrastructure, that goes into a queue. The queue basically, under normal circumstances, we're processing that queue very quickly in real time. We process about 500 million events every day. The queue gets processed down, goes into the database. We use MongoDB as our primary data store. It's a useful data store because we have a lot of flexibility in terms of the type and quantity of data. It scales nicely horizontally. And really, all of these components have to scale horizontally. So our queues scale out horizontally, our web servers scale out, our database. And now, once we have that data, it's not just a matter of collection. It's not just a matter of storing data and perhaps analyzing it and generating some nice report at the end of the day. We want to take action on that data in real time. So we have what we call our processor servers, which are processing data from the database. We take action, we throw it into our personalization engine, which is, an in-house application that we've written, again, horizontally scalable. And finally throw that out to the messaging engine, which either sends an email, takes an action on site, sends a push notification to a mobile device, or whatever action that we want to take that can be defined by a set of rules that the marketer has defined, or by our own personalization and recommendation engine. So this model of taking in data, storing it somewhere, processing it, is really very similar to the model that we ourselves use every day as we process reality. Right? We have our own API, which is our perception, our sensory organs. We store it in our brain, and we have some sort of processing, some sort of mysterious decision engine that involves our values, our memories, everything that we've learned, and we come to decisions and we take action on our environment. And we do this at a staggering pace in real time at all times. This is the conceptual model, the framework that we built Sailthru upon. So here's a little history of the company. And I'll tell you a little bit about some of the infrastructural decisions we made and how those were informed by the state of the company at that time. Back in 2008, when we founded the company, we were just a single box running in a rack. We retired that box about a year ago, and it should hang in our office. We just put it in a very special place where we can look at the box that powered all of that infrastructure in the early days. When we received some seed funding in 2010, that allowed us to start scaling up both the infrastructure and the people infrastructure that it took to support this. We used AWS from about 2010 to 2012 as our main infrastructural data store. Now, AWS was a great tool for us during that time because we were growing very quickly. We had some funding which allowed us we had some money, but we didn't have so much money that we could make upfront CapEx type of expenditures on dedicated hardware. We also didn't have a dedicated ops team at that time, back in 2010. So it made sense to make use of the cloud, make use of AWS, and scale up rapidly. Before the end of 2011, we had hundreds of nodes on AWS. By 2012, our ops team had grown to the size where it made sense, both on a CapEx basis and on an operational basis, just to move off of the cloud, to move our infrastructure off of AWS and into our own colo. And so now today we purchase hardware, we run on that hardware, and we're now expanding to multiple data centers, including in LA and in Europe. So this whole time, we've had this mission, which I've described. It's to transform the way our customers, our brands, communicate with their individual users on a user-first basis, on a personal basis, with a user-first mentality. Because each individual, each of the 500 million users we have in our database is a distinct person who has distinct interests, and we can form a body of data about this individual which can help us reach that person. So I talked about the conceptual model. We started with 6 basic building blocks. Any system has nouns. Any system has certain objects which represent the base concepts in that system. We looked at marketing technology, we looked at how we thought about reality, and we broke this down into 6 basic concepts. Users, people with individual interests, preferences, content, which can be content, products, digital representations of things that users have interest in, devices, the devices that some of you are holding up right now, messages, the communications that we send to people, locations, and events that take place. When you take a picture of this slide with your phone, you, a user, are taking a piece of content using a device in this location Bloomberg, you're doing the event of taking a picture, and perhaps you will send it as a message to another individual. This is the basic conceptual model that we used as the basic framework of Sailthru. On the individual user level, we look at the pieces of data that we could tie to an individual. Interests are the key. The behavioral interests that people have, the products that they shop for, the stylistic tendencies they have, the types of content, the authors they prefer, what they purchase. We take the complete purchase history, offline, online, shopping cart activity, pull that into the system, associate it with the individual user, the time of day that the user interacts both with on-site, with emails, with mobile. These are all different times of day for different users. I may get up in the morning and I may read my email on my iPhone as I sit at a diner, and then I'm at work and I browse a website during lunch hour. Times of day are associated with devices, are associated with interests, are associated with geolocations. And devices, and finally we take custom data that we can take from the client on a completely flexible basis, and clients can define their own business rules around this custom data. So again, we had the 6 basic concepts. It's a user-centric system, so we had 6 basic types of data that we could associate with any given user. And finally, we have the various products, the online channels, the online channel, the email channel, the mobile channel, offline and social. These are the basic channels through which both data collection can occur and that feedback loop of messages back to the end user can occur. So we started with this hypothesis that personalization would drive results. We had to measure it. We measured it through A/B testing. We measured it with our clients, and we found that our hypothesis was correct. If the data that we had collected had not borne out our hypothesis, then Sailthru might have been a very different company. Who knows what we would have done instead? But what we found is that we were able to increase revenue, engagement, customer lifetime value, renewal rates, subscription rates, conversions. We were able to increase these through knowing the user better and giving that end user what they want. So when building the infrastructure, you can't start off on day one when you have a single box in a rack and expect to plan for massive scale at the beginning. You have to be where you are at any given moment in time. So build to your immediate needs and then think about scaling. Think about, what does this look like at 2x, 4x, 10x, 100x? How are we ensuring the components of the system horizontally scale? For those components that we know don't horizontally scale today, what are we going to do in the future to address that? So it's a balance. It's a delicate balance as we set up this infrastructure of thinking for the now and thinking for the long term. And most of all, allowing customer feedback not to drive where we ultimately want to wind up, but to inform every decision we make on the moment-to-moment, the week-by-week, the month-by-month level. If your product does not serve your customers, then you have no product. So that is how we use holistic data, both our vision of what communication with individual users should look like and feedback from customers and the needs of the now. That's basically how I know how to build an infrastructure. Any system is constrained by a set of assumptions. We made a set of assumptions about the model that we used, about the different data points that we could collect. We are still constrained by those assumptions, but we use those assumptions to build on. If the model, the map of reality that you build, is close enough to reality and real customer needs, then what you build can succeed. Be comfortable knowing what you don't know. There's a lot that at any given time you're not going to know. You don't know if the product is going to succeed. You don't know how things are going to grow. You don't know how customers are going to use your platform. It's okay to be in a place of uncertainty as long as you have the mission that ultimately guides you. And what is fast enough? When I lose sleep at night, it's usually because I wonder if we're going fast enough. The truth is, you are never fast enough. Technology changes very quickly. You must keep pace, and there's always a distance between the ideas that you will have in your mind and the distance that it will take to put them into reality. Thankfully, as Sailthru has grown and we've had more resources, that distance grows shorter, but there's always a gap that you must make up as quickly as you can to make the ideas and vision that you have into a reality. In the end, be data-driven. That's all you can be. We are all creatures that process data, that learn from data, that emanate data. Data-driven is the only thing that I know how to be. Thank you.
Nicely done. Questions?
Yeah, I was wondering, a great presentation. You mentioned the transition you did from the pizza box in the rack to AWS and then to your own colo. Can you provide a bit more detail around the second inflection point between going from the cloud to your own stuff?
Yeah, for sure. There were a few different implications. First of all, when we went on the cloud, we had no ops team, as I mentioned. After we hired enough of an ops team that rack and stack was not a practical problem, because the work of setting up machines, and you can hire remote hands to do it as well, is small relative to the work of maintaining and scaling an infrastructure, regardless of whether it's in the cloud or you own that hardware. So we really did a ROI, like cost-benefit analysis, of what we were paying on Amazon on a monthly basis. One thing to remember is 80-90% of our infrastructure is databases, because we're storing all this data. Databases are more difficult to scale up and down in response to demand. It's not like web servers or app servers where you can much more easily do that using something like Elastic Beanstalk or similar technology. For databases, they're always on. So we were paying a lot of money for Amazon, and it made more sense to us to take the upfront cost, CapEx hit of buying that hardware, and then we're able to buy the hardware exactly to our specifications. We're able to own that hardware. We looked at it, and it paid off in basically a year after purchasing that hardware. So even with depreciation, it just made more sense from an ROI standpoint. There was also, when you build, we're a platform for our customers, right? Our customers are depending on us to always be up. And we take responsibility for that. But if Amazon having an issue that we don't have visibility into, it's not acceptable to turn around and relay to our customers that Amazon's having an issue. We needed to take control and take responsibility for that, and we ultimately made that decision that was part of the cost benefit as well.
All right, it's 8:01. We have time for one last quick one, and then we'll go drink.
Hi, I'm Rob Campos from Publicis. Can you talk about the limitations of Sailthru when it comes to social and mobile? Because I feel like the product is very marketing focused, with a lot of users shifting both to mobile as well as a lot of online time being forced through advertising channels instead of marketing. Can you talk about how the customer experience is still, how you still can do that through Sailthru?
To me, Sailthru is actually strengthened by having these other channels, because we're on the mobile device for those customers that have integrated our SDK, and we're pulling that data back and associating it with that same user who's on site, who's on email, who's making purchases, who has a social profile. We're pulling that all together into a singular user profile. So basically, the mobile is actually really exciting for us. It's great to have a new channel in push notifications that is, has very different challenges from that of email or on-site, because it's much more interruptive in nature. And so brands have to be even more careful to respect the end user in terms of the frequency and the relevancy of those types of notifications that happen. But basically, to us, it's all data that all flows back into that same user. It's the difference of having a user-centric platform that's modeled on the assumption that the user always comes first. Does that answer the question? Okay. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks. Well, thanks very much to everyone for coming. The next event is going to be sort of back down in the stack, focused on infrastructure and analytics and sort of big data processing stuff. And thanks again to Bloomberg for helping us. And let's go drink. Thank you.